when the cancer came back, it actually came back. This is the third time of me having it. About a year ago, I went in for one of my regular checkups at Moffitt, and they did the MRI. They didn't see anything. The CT scan didn't see anything. But when the doctor stuck the tube up my nose, which by the way is not very pleasant, they stick that tube so far up your nose, I feel when I shut my eyes, I can see the light through my eyeballs. But when they did that, they looked and they saw another little lesion, a little polyp again. So with that, they biopsied it. When they biopsied it, it came back positive again for cancer. So a year ago, the cancer came back, but they then switched me to an ENT doctor who was a better surgeon at that type of stuff. So I left Moffitt, went to a different doctor, and that doctor over there was like, well, we did the scans and we looked at your scans and we couldn't see where your cancer is at. He's like, we could do surgery. He goes, but I don't know exactly where it's at. I was like, Doc, you're not just gonna go cut in my face and my nasal passage. So with that, he's like, all right, we're just gonna monitor it. So over the next year, we did the scans, every like 3-6 months I would go in, do the nasal thing. He would stick it up there and he's like, looks good, looks good. This summer, about June or July, I started noticing some breathing issues again. I was having issues when I was breathing. I ended up blowing up some snot, and then it never seemed to clear my system. I would blow my nose like 20 times a day, and it always felt like there was more coming out. I would try to go for like little runs, work out, and then like snot would just start to leak out all of a sudden. And luckily in September, a couple months ago, was a checkup. So when I went in there to the doctor, I was like, hey, doctor, something's not right. I'm feeling this, doing that. As soon as he stuck the tube up my nose again, he was like, yeah, it's back. And I was like, okay, what does that mean? He goes, well, we'll do a biopsy real quick. And then when he left the room, he's like, I want to schedule you for surgery as soon as possible. And I was like, we don't even know if it's positive for cancer, if it's just another polyp again. So for me, I was like, oh no, are we going to go through this again? So we did a surgery like 3 weeks later, as soon as the doctor could get me on the schedule. And this time with the surgery, it was in and out in a day. The first time at Moffitt, I spent 3 nights in the hospital. I was hit up hard. I couldn't even walk for like 2 days. This time, surgery, walked out that day. I was like, oh, I didn't feel bad at all. A couple days later, the results came back where he couldn't get clean margins, and he's like, the cancer's still in you. And so, of course, with tests and everything, these last 28, 29 days, basically the whole month of October has kind of been like this, what do we do next with this cancer? So he referred me back to the oncologist and radiologist at Moffitt, and I met with them. And so now I have 2 doctors over there. One's the radiologist and one's the oncologist. And they said, hey, this cancer has come back pretty strong again. And I'm not very good at all the understanding of the knowledge behind it. But one of the numbers that I did understand was that there's like a Ki-67 number, which determines how like aggressive the cancer is. A year ago when they did the biopsy, my Ki-67 number was at a 35, which made it like a moderate cancer. This time when it came back, they did the biopsy, it was at a 95, which makes it a highly aggressive cancer. So with that, me and my wife started looking to what's going to happen next. So with the doctors, they came up with a plan that we're going to do 7 sessions of chemotherapy and 35 radiation sessions. The drugs that they're going to use for the chemotherapy, and once again, I can't say some of these words, carboplatin and Paxilata. I'll put it in the description below, but they call it Taxol, I guess. So I'm having 7 rounds of chemo with those 2 type of drugs, which basically kind of like freeze the cancer from growing. And then we're going to do 35 radiation sessions. So over this last couple weeks, I've had to go back in for a PET scan, which thank God, once again, the cancer was still just localized in my nose. And when it had been in there before, like the first time I said it was up closer to my brain wall, now it's farther back in the sinus area. So that's why they gave it a stage 3 cancer, because it hasn't metastasized to the rest of my body, but it stays local. So it's still moving in there. But like I said, the PET scan came back negative that it moved into my lungs or anything like that. So praise God that we're just focusing on this one area in my face now. So with that, I mean, if you have any type of head or neck cancer, they make this mask for you. And, you know, if you looked up the videos, you've seen what it looks like. So they put you down, they stretch this thing over your face. It's kind of warm at first, and they stretch it over your face, and then they lock it in, and then it hardens over like the next 20 or 30 minutes. And I thought that's all I was going to have to do, but I didn't read much into it where they actually make nose plugs for me. So they stick nose plugs up because the radiation, they don't want it to go to certain places. And then also, the worst part is they put this giant mouthpiece in. And I thought when they're like, oh, we're going to make you a mouthpiece. I played high school football. So I was like, oh, I've worn a mouthpiece before. This mouthpiece is literally like the size of my fist. And they put it in your mouth and they make you bite down. And so it molds to your teeth. And there's a hole in the middle of it so you can still kind of breathe out of it. I tell you what, the first time they strap you in and they click that on and they put that mouthpiece and they stick the things up your nose and they give you the CT scan, like it was emotional because you're like, I feel like I'm in an 1800s like torture chamber right now, like literally cannot move. Usually, you know, breathe a lot through your nose. So all of a sudden that's broken. Can't breathe out your nose because those things are stuck up in there and you have that little hole. So thank goodness I could just kind of say my prayers, you know, meditate a little bit, have a little song or two in my head and take deep breaths and just slowly breathe through that little airspace. I'm gonna have to do that 35 times until the last radiation session is New Year's Eve of 2025. So it is going to be a long process going through this. I've read a lot of things online about people and their experiences. Now, most of the thing is people have cancer in their throats, their necks, all this type of stuff where they have issues swallowing. They have mouth sores. I don't know if I'm going to get this because my cancer is different. From what I believe the doctor says, they're definitely going to radiate in the nasal area, but I think they're going to hit my lymph nodes up also. So with that, am I going to have these mouth sores? You know, that's one reason I want to make this video is for the people that, the 100 or 200 people out there in the world that get my type of cancer, you know, just kind of let you know what's going to happen over these next couple months with doing this. So today is actually the first radiation treatment. Wednesday is the first chemo treatment as we go through this. So I'll keep you guys posted on things. I have an amazing support staff. You know, I did get married like 5 months ago. This is where I'll probably get emotional talking about my wife, but through having her in my life, she's the biggest, strongest person I know, and she's made a plan out for us. And I know with her in my life, and God on my side, and friends and families all around me, this cancer, we're getting it this time. So keep posted on my journey here, and hopefully through my journey that I can help others. All right, day 1 of cancer, kicking its butt today, and for the next 3 months.